Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got another gun gripe episode for you, and I've got a couple of special guests here with me today. This is Matt and Klint from MeetThePressers. They've got a great YouTube channel / podcast. Great group of guys. Matt here is from the state of New York, upstate New York. And then Klint is from PA, Pittsburgh area.
Yes, sir.
So it's always great to get some fresh perspective here on gun gripes. We're going to be diving into a really interesting concept. You guys might be, recall recently where a federal judge upheld that the 2018 law to prevent those under the age of 21 in the state of Florida from purchasing a firearm has been upheld, of course. So we're going to kind of dive into that and talk about it a little bit. And we're posing the question, is the state of Florida anti-gun? All right, so we're going to be diving into this. But before we do, it would actually be a really good opportunity for me to tell you guys about USCCA. United States Concealed Carry Association. You guys have probably heard of them or heard that term thrown around a little bit. They are a great group of people. They provide self-defense legal protection. So if you're involved in a legal shooting, they definitely go out of their way to provide the legal resources to make sure that you're taken care of and that you can come out, hopefully on top. They do have lots of firearms education, different training resources, tons of videos, guides, books, and articles. So don't think of it like a gun insurance type of thing. The best way to think about it is along the lines of a total training regimen and a advocacy regimen that helps make sure that you're not put in a situation where you're going to be involved in a bad shooting or you're going to make a bad decision. So they help, give you the resources to make sure that you understand the laws in your area, what you're supposed to do, what you're not supposed to do, what's a good shoot, what's a bad shoot. So really, really great opportunity for that. It's more than a firearms insurance. It provides you with a good amount of knowledge across a broad spectrum of different things to make sure that you are a well-informed and trained gun owner as well. So that if you are involved in a shooting, that it is something that you're going to come out on top legally and make sure that you're not going to get in a bunch of trouble, okay? They do have 3 tiers. They have a gold, platinum, and elite. And each of those different tiers provides some different coverage amounts in terms of liability coverage, personal injury coverage, and stuff like that. So check it out. Use the code IV8888. Check out the link below. Go over to USCCA and tell them that we sent you. So Matt and Klint are also involved with USCCA. So you guys had some really good, experience with them.
Yes. Senior training counselors for the CCHDF program. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's one thing about USCCA is they do have some great, training programs, and they do provide those training resources in addition to, just the carry advocacy that comes along with the legal protection.
Well, we want our fellow Americans to not only be armed Americans, but well-educated and well-regulated in the true sense of what that means.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you. So we're going to dive into this. When you look at the state of Florida and you look at everything that's been going on, and I'd love to have y'all's perspective on this because y'all live in a geographical location that might as well be Mars compared to Florida. Like Florida is a very, very different place. Like it's different environment. But when you look at the state of Florida, there seems to be this movement in Florida that seems to be, let's just say, a very freedom-oriented movement, right? We see that everything from mask mandates to various things relating to freedom and liberty. It seems that Florida is trying to sort of lead the call, right, for that. So when we see something like an anti-gun situation being upheld, it does make you sort of question, like, how pro-Constitution, pro-liberty, pro-freedom, are they really on that freedom train? Or is it all just a facade?
Well, I think a lot of the layers of the onion, and no matter what state you're in, you've got different politicians at all different levels of government, and I think that's what we're seeing here. And that whole bill, the whole law that came about in 2018 was because of the school shooting and rush emotions. We always talk about those emotions, and emotions is what drives a lot of these bills to be turned into law. And I think that's probably where this went, and now it's being upheld by probably, I would assume, a liberal anti-gun judge in that sense, even though he says that he's just following what he has to follow based on.
Well, you have to look at kind of the evolution of Florida going towards the side of darkness when it comes to liberty. Look at the population and how it's changing and where those new residents are coming from.
Yep.
We see that happening in Texas with people leaving California. We've seen what has happened to Colorado with a lot of the Californians moving there and bringing their liberal ideas and anti-gun ideas in many cases as well.
Right.
So perhaps this is a reflection of that.
So this mass exodus becomes an importation of bad ideas as well as good ideas. So when you see this sort of leading of the charge of this pro-freedom movement that seems to be sweeping over a lot of Florida, I mean, a lot of these videos, these viral videos that you see on Instagram and on Twitter and various social media sites, you see these videos of people getting together and having a good time, they're shooting fireworks, and it seems that there's just this really big push to patriotism and conservative values seem to have taken a good, strong root and uphold in Florida, right? So when we see an anti-gun, measure get upheld, it certainly does make you question how far down that rabbit hole we end up going. So
Very true.
The way that this situation kind of reads, and I'm just going to be very, very brief and just kind of paraphrase this. Essentially, in the state of Florida, you cannot buy a firearm, period, if you're under the age of 21. Now, generally speaking, each state, of course, is a little different. Some states have their own individual, ways that they handle things. But generally speaking, the age to buy a long gun is 18, and the age to buy a pistol is 21. That's pretty true throughout most places. Okay, so it is an outlier that we have now. This, there's 3 years there that someone that could buy a long gun now cannot buy a long gun until they're 21. So they're treating 21 as the universal age that you can buy a firearm, period, be it rifle or pistol.
That you can die for your country.
Right.
Yeah.
You can drink a beer. You can, age of
cigarette.
consent. You can.
You
There's
can
all these things
exercise
you
your
can do.
Fifth Amendment right,
Yeah.
but selectively now these people that are 21 years of age or younger than 21, they cannot exercise their Second Amendment right.
And get married.
So in those other states where maybe there's a limitation on the handgun, playing devil's advocate, you could say, well, we're not limiting their Second Amendment rights because they can buy a long gun.
Right.
But here, like, everything's off the books. Unless you're 21, you can't buy any gun. And that is someone in government telling you, oh, you can exercise these rights, but not that one.
Well, what's more frightening is now it's not just some person in government saying, here's this rule, here's this law, here we go. Now it's the court saying, all right, we're going to back the fact that a state can we're going to uphold this. So that's the scary part. So why does 21 become the magic number? Who decided that? So, when you open this Pandora's box, what could potentially happen? What if they end up saying,
26.
All right, well, you have to be 30. You have to be 50.
70.
Oh, you can't buy a gun until you're 60. Only a FUD 60-year-old needs to go hunt deer. What do you need a gun for? Young man, you don't need a gun. So what's the the litmus there,
The Second Amendment does have the word bear in it, though. It's not about hunting.
It's not about hunting bears. It's bearing arms.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so you're probably asking, well, what the heck? What about if you're under 21, how do you protect yourself? Well, under Florida law currently, if you're 18 or older, you can be in possession of a long gun. You just can't purchase a long gun. Well, that doesn't make sense
No.
at all.
If it was truly a safety, it's kind of like red flag laws. They say if this person is truly a problem or a potential problem, then why would you allow, with a red flag law, why would you allow that person to go back into society and have access to gas and trucks and knives
Pressure
and box cutters? Yeah. So if you look at this from the standpoint of it being a safety measure, well, it loses all integrity when I can't buy it, but I can have it.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
if they really believe that people under 21 can't be trusted with any gun, then why would they allow them to have it in this other case?
Well, it's like the ambiguity of the brace situation, right? Yeah, we've made several videos where we've talked about the Federal Register and getting your comments in on the brace deal, which is probably at the point of this video dropping still a thing. Make sure you get your comments in. I have to do some housekeeping there. Make sure you go over to the Federal Register and submit your brace and receiver comments to the ATF. But the ambiguity of that situation still stands because they're not saying you can't keep said item or keep said configuration. They're just saying you have to pay a $200 tax stamp in order to keep it. Well, if you can simply pay a $200 extortion fee, it's not really illegal, is it?
Registration leads to confiscation.
Well, that's what they're saying now. That's what they're saying now.
Yeah,
so
keep
if
pushing
that is
line.
to happen, then moving forward, if that can happen, then let's try something else.
Yeah,
But if
next.
something is illegal until you pay a fee and then it's not illegal, it's not illegal.
You're
That's
thinking
the issue.
Yeah. Well, we're thinking too logically, I guess. That's why we're not politicians.
Yeah.
Very true.
So I guess then the question sort of remains there. So, is Florida anti-gun holistically? Like when you look at just the entire, lifeblood of Florida. Florida's a very diverse place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different people. There are strongholds and areas where, people probably have a little bit more left-leaning or liberal views. And that's okay. People can think the way they want or whatever. But generally, most of the places I visit in Florida, I typically will go to rural Florida, and I like, hanging out in the Gulf Coast and fishing, and I like, going up the Peace River. There's all kind of places I like to visit in Florida that are kind of off the beaten track a bit.
Yeah.
And out there, people love their guns.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Florida was the first carry permit that I received. They would issue to out of state. At the time, I lived in California, and in the county I was in at the time, there was no way I was going to get any type of license to carry. And of course, I couldn't carry in California with that license to carry, but Florida issued me one out of state. So when I would travel, I'd be able to take my firearm to defend myself and my family. And interestingly enough, the commissioner for the Florida Department of Agriculture at the time was Charles Bronson. So my first permit said Charles Bronson was the issuer, which I thought was pretty fantastic.
Whoa. Back up. The Charles Bronson?
No, it was a different Charles Bronson. Oh,
man. I was about to get excited for a second and be like, dude,
Wow.
Charlie Bronson?
Yeah, you
Look,
can
I even got the rope. Charlie Bronson's got the rope.
Yeah, he was the commissioner of the Department
cool.
of Agriculture at the time,
cool.
Charles Bronson.
That's pretty neat. So I go down to Florida usually about once a year and teach, and as you know, Klint, teach in the American Police Hall of Fame Museum. I do the multi-state course, which includes Utah and Florida, and I run across the questions about Florida, and there's a lot of people that want to go to Florida just for vacation. But while I'm in Florida annually, I get a lot of people in Florida, and they find out I'm from New York. They're like, "Don't you come down here? Don't you bring that those liberal mindsets?
Wash it off at the border."
Yeah, right, exactly. So I hear it from Floridians that they don't want that coming down because they see it changing, and they know people are retiring and moving there because there's no income tax, et cetera. Which it's a great place to go, but it's
Florida
spoiling the
is
water.
a unique state.
It is.
In that it is a place that people tend to want to gravitate to later in life, So there are a lot of retirees that live in Florida, and many of them have spent an entire life earning a very honest living, and they've paid a lot of taxes, and they've seen a lot of political ideologies come and go, right? So and in advanced age, as you get older, I'd like to think you get wiser, right? I've run into a lot of retirees in Florida, and I love to talk to them. I love to have chats with them because I always love to see kind of where their mind is at. And down here we call them snowbirds, the ones that visit in the winter time to come down in the warmer weather, and then they go home to work, in the summer or whatever. But the retirees, we can call them snowbirds too, especially when they come from like up north. So I love talking to them because I always like to hear some different perspective and get an idea where they're from. And 9 times out of 10, most of the retirees that I talk to, they're like, look, I want to hang out and have fun with the grandkids and play in the beach and go over the range and shoot my gun, hang out, ride a horse.
Be left alone.
Do my thing. And most of them are just freedom-loving, peace-loving people, but they respect and understand the sanctity and importance of the Second Amendment. And I do, particularly, I will question a lot of people about the Second Amendment. What do you think about guns? You live in Florida, whatever. And even some of the ones are like, oh, well, I moved down here from Wisconsin, or I came from New York, or I've ran into people that used to live in Michigan and everywhere, right? California, lots of Californians retire and move to Florida. Well, that's fine. And a lot of them tend to go, hey, I just love the freedom attitude of the state. Like they view it as a general attitude of holistic freedom. And I think that that's a positive thing overall.
Well, keep in mind, you have a lot of Cubans in Florida. And, we're seeing what's happening right now. And, traditionally, most Cuban families are more conservative, and they certainly love liberty because they escaped tyranny to get there.
They know.
Or their family did, or their relatives are still there. And as we
I love
see,
Miami.
Yeah, we're seeing what's going on in Cuba right now. So, those folks have been very much an advocate for freedom moving forward and liberty. Like the locked and loaded Latinas, that were Latinos. They've been a great voice in helping to bring the Second Amendment cause to that group of citizens. And that's what we see a lot in Florida, too. So I think moving forward, they can help us bring things back to the side of liberty when things like this happen and these type of court cases are upheld.
I think that it's just important to acknowledge these things and to keep an eye on them, right? I mean, is it to say that Floridians as a whole are anti-gun? Of course not. No. Floridians as a whole love guns. All it takes is a couple of bad apples. Now, in a previous gun gripe, Klint and Matt and I, we discussed the importance of having recorded votes and really pushing your elected representatives to actually go through and record their votes on a given bill or whatever, even if it may not make it to the governor's desk, or even if the governor may, veto the bill. That's okay. At least there's a recorded vote. So this also proves that when you look at the legislative process that went through to put this into place, I don't recall precisely if it was just like an executive order from the governor or if it went through legislative process, but be that as it may, either or, regardless, the important part is that you know who's on your side and who isn't, and you know where their allegiances lie and where they don't. So it's important to recognize the people that stood by you and your ability to own a firearm or buy a firearm under the age of 21, to at least, stay what we've always associated as being the normal age to buy a firearm. You know who's going to stay on your side in that regard, and you know who isn't.
Very true.
Very true.
So anything else we got for Florida? Other than want to go there and
great place to go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I do like Miami. Miami's a different vibe, it's kind of a little bit of a different place, but I love the cultures in Miami. There's so many different people down there, and I love the cuisine. There's so much great food, and there's some fun stuff to do. The beaches are beautiful. I mean, it's a really cool place to visit, and you can kind of tell that, folks down there kind of march to the beat of their own drum. Large cities have a pulse. They have a soul. You know what I mean? And every city's a little different, but they all have this sort of, it's like when you get so many people in such a small place, it really changes the overall attitude of the way people look at various topics. So that's why you'll tend to see a lot of larger cities be a little more on the anti-gun side than they are pro-gun, because I guess at its heart, when you get enough human beings in one place, they hate each other. And maybe it's a different vibe, I don't know, but I'd like to think that Florida as a whole is relatively pro-gun, but I just wanted to make this video. I wasn't sure. Some of you might not have been familiar with this, so we thought we'd make a quick gun gripe.
Yeah, while we're talking about Florida, I have to throw a shout out to Mike from Arms Room Radio. He's actually runs Trigger Pressers Union Local Number 2 in Orlando. He's he runs Local Number 2. So
I love Orlando. That's a great town. I mean, I think that what the city of Orlando and that whole area has done just as a whole, just in terms of economics, they have done a really great job of having such wonderful tourism and making it accessible for a lot of people and making it a comfortable environment and a safe environment. And every time I visited Orlando, I've always loved the area. It's a really cool place.
I've got some Disney dollars from the early 90s. I think they're worth more than American currency now, right?
Probably.
Maybe we can switch to Disney dollars.
We might be heading that way.
Get on the mouse standard instead of...
The mouse standard? So is a bear or a bull market? That's a mouse market. That's cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for watching today's Gun Gripe. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure, if you want to support our channel directly, you can go over to Ballistic Inc., pick yourself up a snazzy t-shirt. You can go over to Patreon, support us directly on Patreon if you wish to. Sorry, I can't talk today. You can also support MeetThePressers on Patreon if you want to as well. We've also got some great man cans available if you want to pick up a merchandise box to support us. We greatly appreciate that. And also, just quickly, where can they find you guys on social media? I know you are on YouTube.
Yeah, it's MeetThePressers is on everything. So MeetThePressers.com is the website, and then MeetThePressers on Instagram, YouTube,
and
Facebook.
You're on Twitter as well.
Twitter as well.
Awesome. Y'all need to start posting on Twitter more often.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys. Thank you for watching. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.